My husband is married to his career, but he has never worked. Just as the title says. My husband is a good person. I can come to him with any situation and he will do everything to help me solve it. He has taken on my child from a previous relationship and treats him as his own. He is very caring, loyal and nurturing. When my friend was dying and needed a ride home from the hospital, my husband quickly said, let's get her. My closest friends, including my friend that died, would say that he is a great guy. However, in 10 years, married 7, that I've known him, he has worked 1 year. I think he had a job with a local college. He was a college student finishing his master's when we met, but it ended after we met, or I don't know the actual details. The plan, or so I thought, was that he would get a job as an engineer, BS in mechanical and MS in aerospace. He wants to be a writer and I feel like I have been supportive enough. I've never seen anything he has written. Once he said that if he could just have 200 pages in his book, he would like to go ahead and publish it. When I asked how many pages he had, he said 70. He will make comments, say things like career change, and I'm just thinking WTH? He has told me that he planned to be a writer before he ever met me or before we had our child. I've reminded him multiple times that he said that, and he says I take it out of context or that it was said in anger. His exact words were, I planned to be a writer before I ever met you. In 2019 to 2020, he got a job and COVID happened. He was asked to continue on with the job, but it was not what he wanted to do. For the last 3 years, I have been begging him to get a job or go back to the same job. I have not always been nice in my approach, but I have reached my breaking point. He has told me that I am verbally abusing him. I am telling him to grow up and be a man. He has kids. They need things. Bills need to be paid. Come on. He will tell me to spare him or that he is already down. He always says he can't focus. I have told him that I plan to get a divorce and leave him, and his response is usually do whatever you feel like you need to do. I send him jobs postings and people he can contact, and I don't ever think he looks at it. In January, he said I was verbally abusing him and he would update in 2 weeks. I've never gotten an update. I am fed up. I am broken. I don't think he cares enough about his family to do anything or change it. My self-worth is destroyed. I am fighting to survive. He will tell me that I have too much pride. I am not prideful. I just want him to work and show that he cares about his family. It's asking too much. His parents recently came for an extended stay. This was the first time the kids and I had ever met them. It was a final straw for me. A couple of my friends said that he would probably have a job right after his parents arrived. Well, they have been gone for 1 month and still nothing. His mom pays for his half of the bills. He sometimes says it doesn't all come from her, sometimes it's tenants or insurance money. While his parents were here, his mom, his dad doesn't give him money, told my parents that their son had financially drained her and she would have to sell her house and jewelry. My husband says it hasn't come to that yet. Apparently he must have made a comment about dying and money problems, and my mill told my parents he would commit suicide if she cut him off. My husband has never seemed suicidal, and he said that he told them if he were to die then probably all of the money problems would go away. My mill recently reached out to my mom and wanted me to talk to my husband because she said that he listens to me and that maybe he should get psychiatric help. I told my mill that I have been begging him for 3 years and that I plan to start divorcing him. She told me to give him more time and that would not be good for the children's future. I told her that he had plenty of time and what's going on now isn't good for their future. I want to tell her that her son needs to grow the F up. I'm just at my wit's end. My husband says he now realizes he needs to up his efforts, and he has been. I told him to get a job at Busey's. Even his mom said he was an engineer and that was a low job. I feel like this is an awful form of neglect and abuse. Yet, when I say something or get mad at him, I feel guilty too. Nothing I have said or done motivates him. I think it's time to start moving forward with divorce, but I don't even know where to begin. He has a permanent residency, so I don't even know how that will affect me if I move forward with a divorce. Comment. I had a very similar problem with my ex. We were together for 10 years and he worked only 2 years out of those 10. I got similar excuses from him. It's draining to say the least to deal with people like this. You feel powerless and endlessly frustrated. After 10 years I decided to break up with him. I just couldn't deal with it anymore. It turned out to be the best decision of my life. About 3 years later I met my now husband, who is hard-working, kind, empathetic and mature. All I wish is that I would have exited that dead-end relationship earlier. I did the same, was with him for 19 years. He only worked for about 5 of those years on and off. I was ruined by the end of it. I was working so hard at a job I hated and had nothing to show for it. Ended the relationship. It's been 3 years since we broke up and he is still not working. So you just shrug your shoulders then when he lies to you about what he does all day. So why allow him to just lie to your face like that? Why have you stayed this long and not left him? You mentioned he also has kids. I'm assuming from a previous relationship. So how does he provide for those kids? The example you provide that makes him a good person is that he drove your friend home from the hospital. Is that it? A grown man with children is jobless and not providing for children he brought into the world, but he drove your friend home from the hospital, so all good. You say you make okay money. So you are taking away resources from your own child to support an able-bodied adult because what? Why did you marry him knowing all of this? Okay. Let's accept that you made a terrible decision for you and your child there. But now I ask, why on earth would you continue to allow this type of person to have such an impact on your child? Think about all the money you waste because he provides nothing. Now think about what you have had to tell your child no to, because your money was going to supplementing this grown-ass man. Even if his mom pays for his half of the bills, I bet there are plenty things your child went without because you had to fill any gaps. What have you taught your child from this? I'm not meaning to be harsh, but this post really broke my heart for all the children involved. He doesn't have to finish anything, because he is leeching off of you and his mom. It sounds like until he hits rock bottom, nothing will change. You need to protect your kids, and value your own self-worth. His green card is not your problem, it's his. Seriously. If he has those degrees he should be employable, and then his legal status will be fine, right? He doesn't need to get a job though while people are supporting him. Also, threatening to unalive himself to his mother sounds really manipulative. It's despicable. How awful. He's not a good role model, and you need a partner. I'm so sorry you're going through this. Sending hugs. If he was working on his writing, he'd have several finished novels. I'm not so sure he's lying about the job applications. It can be brutal out there, especially as he has next to no job history and few skills. There'll be 100 other applicants with better skill sets. Entry-level jobs don't usually want qualified people, and most places never respond. You just drop in your application and never hear back. That doesn't mean he shouldn't work smarter at bringing in an income. Or that he needs to be your problem. He has been enabled by you and his mother for far too long. I went through this off and on for 20 years. I paid all of the bills. I was a single mother, already supporting the two of us. In all of those years, he never kept a steady job. He was also a drug addict, and I always had to bail him out or risk mine and my child's life. He didn't even pay child support for 2 children. He was not my child's father. He is now very successful and Slide to Cars has 2 businesses, a wife, and a new child. I'm glad he finally straightened up, that I really resent what I went through. Of course, I allowed it. You need to dump this loser. You and your child could have a far better life without him. I wish you luck. This man is taking away resources that could go to your child. It's not only financial resources but your time as well. I wouldn't worry about what happens to him if you divorce. He's extremely resourceful. He's conned his parents and you into providing for him for 10 years. Don't be surprised if he asks for and receives alimony. That's why you need to do this now rather than wait 5 to 10 more years. He's already entrenched in your financial net worth and waiting is only going to get him more of your resources. Story 2. My soon-to-be sister-in-law said something about my 3-month-old that made me really uncomfortable. My soon-to-be sister-in-law, let's refer to her as Helen from now on, was over visiting today. Helen loves our 3-month-old and loves being around her. A little info on Helen: she's young, kind of immature, and has terrible anxiety. She's babysat our daughter once and my husband's father was there. I was a little nervous to let Helen do it herself because I haven't known her super long, 1-2 years I think, so it was a good trial run with Grandpa there, totally trust him. Anyways, we were talking about babies crying and how it can really cause your blood pressure to rise and be a sensory overload. Well, At one point Helen said something along the lines of, "She's so precious, but sometimes when she cries it makes me want to just put a pillow over her face." I was shocked. In the moment I didn't really know what to do or say, so I just laughed it off, but now I'm completely uncomfortable with Helen ever watching our daughter alone. My husband agrees. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Helen is marrying my husband's brother. Helen currently lives with my husband's sister, let's call her Lily. We totally trust Lily with our daughter. When we were looking for a sitter the first time, we texted Grandma, Grandpa, and Lily, purposely leaving Helen out cause I wasn't too sure I wanted her to babysit. Lily couldn't babysit, but since her and Helen lived together, Lily asked Helen, and then we felt like it would be rude to say no, and since Grandpa was going to be there we were okay with it. Now, how do we go about talking to Lily so we can still have her babysit but let her know not to ask Helen if she's unavailable? Should we even do that or just forego asking either of them? Is that too much to put on Lily? I get that people have intrusive thoughts that cross their minds and that just because someone thinks something, they'd never actually do it. But to verbalize it about my child to me, just really made me uncomfortable. Edit, some of y'all really know how to make a first-time mom feel like bad. On the other hand, some of you have been really great. I'm a giant baby when it comes to confrontation. I tend to have a flight/freeze reaction versus a fight. I so desperately want to be that badass that doesn't balk at confrontation. Especially regarding my child. I know I'll continue to learn and grow with my child and learn how to be her best and most fierce defender. We did talk to Helen. We set a boundary and she was super apologetic, but I made it known that while I don't hate her or anything, this isn't going away overnight and it's going to take time to get through this. That's all I'm going to say as an update. Thanks. Comment. I agree with this. I would also feel uncomfortable with someone saying what Helen said, especially towards a child. Super inappropriate. Isn't it possible though that she didn't understand the phrase, or didn't realize it's not okay to use in this context? She may have heard other people use it jokingly, and thought it was a silly expression. I've definitely heard people say that about their snoring spouse. Reminds me of Hanlon's razor, never ascribe to malice that which is adequately explained by incompetence. I feel like this is going to get back to Helen either way, but the least drama would be going to Helen first, then telling other family members. Seriously. I can't count the amount of times I've told my husband that I want to throw my daughter out the window. Do I actually want to throw her out the window? Absolutely not. Have I ever made a move to actually throw her out the window? Absolutely not. It's completely different making this joke about your own child. I keep saying that my cats will be turned into fur boots. I will never ever say that to somebody else about their pet. Especially if they ask me to pet sit for them. You make all the jokes about your own kids and pets, but making a comment like that to a new mom of a 3-month-old baby who is very much stressed about its safety is an asshole move, and I would expect my friends to keep me away from their cats if I ever said that they are annoying me so much when cat sitting for them that I could just smother them with a pillow. And I have a very dark sense of humor. When people say like this, all I think is, wow, it must have been great growing up with your family. Is your whole family normal with no mind games, manipulation or emotional abuse? How is that? Because I used to dream about it and I'd love to know what it's like to not have to cut 90% off your family out of your life for your own mental well-being and the protection of your kids. AKA, you're lucky, lots of us have families where we can't just say that and expect a reasonable reaction or anyone to respect our ask. For real, put your child's safety first here. Be honest, Helen said when the baby cries it makes her want to put a pillow over her face. I'm sure you can understand why that concerns us, especially since Helen is a bit immature. We can't trust she wouldn't actually do it. Please respect that we do not want our child to be left in the care of or alone with Helen, ever. This is non-negotiable. Thank you for understanding and respecting our wishes. Until Helen, the exact same thing. What she said, how it made you feel, and why you will never leave your child alone in her presence. Helen may not have meant anything by it, but she has to understand, but this is a comment that is just not made to a parent of an infant. She's got some growing up to do, and I think that if her brother-in-law wants to marry this girl, he needs to understand what the problem is here, because what if they have their own children someday and it's not just an idle comment? I don't think Op could live with herself if there was a future tragedy that happened if she didn't say anything to Helen. She needs to speak to her, now.